Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
Hi, I am Alex,
I'm Will.
and we are the Blood Brothers.
No relation.
And today, we are talking about a very interesting subject in the world of horror, which was Will's idea.
Yes, it
Will,
was.
I will let you introduce
All
it.
right. Horror musicals. Now, obviously, we both love horror. I love musicals, and
I do.
Alex hates musicals.
It's fair.
So,
I'm not as entertained by musicals.
sure. So I thought this would be an
They're hard for me to get through. I don't want to use hate,
Sure.
but it's a very strong dislike.
Yeah. So I thought this would be an interesting experiment to show Alex some horror musicals to sort of see what he, thinks. And so I showed you three. I showed you, one which is a parody of horror movies called Little Shop of Horrors. I showed you Sweeney Todd, actually on stage, with people who are, can play those characters correctly.
I have seen the movie too.
So he hadn't seen Sweeney Todd before. He'd seen whatever the fuck that was. And then I showed you a...
Pirates of the Caribbean gone goth.
pretty much. Cruella de Vil puts people in pies. And then a sort of cult classic called Repo the Genetic Opera. And
Can't wait to talk about that.
I was about to say, now, I have a musical theater background, and I've actually played Sweeney Todd. That's my favorite role I've ever played. And so that show is very precious to me. And it's kind of what made me realize that, horror musicals can work. Because, I think typically when people think of musicals, they think, old-fashioned, tap number, Cinderella, Oklahoma, anything goes. They think of stuff like that, and which definitely works if you're doing something like Rocky Horror or Little Shop, where you're parodying horror. But you wouldn't necessarily expect it to work with legitimate horror. And it works way better than one might think, because in musicals, what I think a lot of the best musicals do is they use music to emphasize the emotion. That's the advantage of actually having music in it, is music can, have the potential to be more emotional and more visceral. And with something like Sweeney Todd, where you've got a lot of layers of pain and grief and emotion, it helps to have that motif where it's like a character can, have this, emotional breakdown, like in the song Epiphany, and singing about it, or singing that breakdown, adds some intensity to it that, not that one couldn't do it incredibly well without music, but there's a layer to it that music does add, I think, in a scene, where he's just losing his mind, and there's something raw about the music in that show.
See, for me, the musical aspect of a show or a movie, for me, it's almost like a break in the action. Like, I know
Sure.
it's supposed to be, carrying on the plot
Yeah.
and things of that nature, but for me, it almost takes me out of it. So while it can be impactful and it is those raw emotions, for me, it's almost, I'm not taking anything about it too seriously, because
Gotcha.
this is a break in the
Gotcha.
in the action. Right.
Okay, sure. And again, musicals aren't everyone's thing, obviously. And I'm not expecting it to be everyone's thing. And I wasn't trying to convert you into someone who loves musicals. I was just trying to see how you reacted to the idea of horror and musical theater being blended.
I feel as though it worked to a certain degree,
Right.
but I didn't feel as though the horror was necessarily super effective.
Okay.
Because again, the whole musical aspect is very new to me, and I'm sure I would have to like ingrain myself more into the genre to see or watch that and then watch something else to really feel an effect.
Gotcha.
But for me, it's while there are certain aspects about the film overall that are scary,
Yeah.
I didn't find any of that with the musical numbers for the most part.
Okay.
Especially with Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah. Well, Little Shop is a comedy.
Well, horror
I
comedy.
mean, yeah,
musical.
it's very much a parody of classic sci-fi and horror. And the movie, the director's cut of the movie especially, because the finale is when we get all the references to Godzilla and King Kong and the Blob and stuff like that, where they throw in direct visual cues. But I just kind of was. It was more of an experiment for myself to see, just sort of almost like I was focus grouping you. Like almost like I was just like, it was more like I was administering some sort of survey to you, just as one who does love horror and musicals and thinks the two can work incredibly well together. I was interested in seeing what you thought as one who loves horror and hates musicals.
See, when you showed me Little Shop of Horrors, with that being more comedic, I for me it fell very flat.
Sure.
And I know this is not going to be a very popular take, but I didn't really care for the movie.
That's fair.
A lot of that had to do with Rick Moranis' character, Seymour.
Yeah.
Just a protagonist that is so dumb.
Gotcha.
And is just so either stupid, clumsy, just foolish.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't in a charming way.
Okay, I see.
For me, it was just, okay, he's a moron, and it's not even charming. He's just kind of a moron.
Gotcha.
I couldn't get behind the character. And sure, you could say that, well, it was his selfishness that kind of takes over.
Yeah.
But it's so ridiculous that that doesn't really come across for me. I can't follow a main character who's that foolish.
Sure.
It was a hard watch.
Gotcha.
It was a hard watch, very hard for me to get through. The musical numbers were good.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't like musicals, I was entertained by the music.
Yeah.
But everything with Seymour, I've seen enough.
Gotcha.
Terrible jokes at midnight.
Anyway,
that's going to be the name of my late talk show.
Terrible jokes at midnight. It'd still be funnier than Fallon.
That's true.
But now I only got the chance to show you 3. There are a couple more that the same team that made Repo made that I just didn't get the chance to show you, but Repo you actually liked. And
surprisingly.
Yeah. And Repo, for those who don't know, is directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed Saw 2, 3, and 4, and Spiral. And
so good.
Yeah. But that was a movie that I think was so unlike a traditional musical.
Yes.
Because it's an industrial rock opera. And that's just very, like, dystopian gothic.
Well, if I can cut you off.
Yeah.
I think what I liked about it, was the music.
Yeah.
I'm more of a rock guy.
Oh, yeah.
And with it not being like traditional musical music, I can get behind it a little more.
Sure.
And this movie is so bizarre.
It's a batshit crazy.
So insane. It is like that. My suspension of disbelief. Like there's no ground reality baseline for me to like fall on.
Okay.
So with that suspension of disbelief being like very much unveiled, I could get behind the breaks between the acting and and I know it's an opera where just about everything is being
very
performed.
There's very little spoken,
but there's very little spoken lines. But it worked for me because that's just how crazy it was.
Yeah, it's a world that's weird enough that this all oddly makes like nonsense makes sense in a world like this.
And I very much enjoyed it, and for me, I didn't feel as though with the songs it wasn't okay. All the actors are taking a break and we're singing now. It very much felt character driven.
Yeah.
So I could still be behind it the entire time,
right.
Which is my big issue with a lot of musicals. It's okay. We're taking a break and we're just going to show off our kick-ass vocal range. Kudos to people who can do musicals. I'm not dissing on the performers. You guys are awesome. I can't do that. I'm kind of jealous. But for me, that's when the character work usually stops. And it's just, okay, we're about the musical number now.
Gotcha.
With Repo, I felt it was all character driven.
Because there was no break.
Yes, since there is no break, they have to keep telling their story.
Yeah.
And just, especially with the dad.
Yeah.
His stuff was good.
Yeah.
And just the way that he would, like, his range of, like, going really here and then back up here.
Yeah. Well, because
awesome.
he had to do what is, there's, I think another example of horror musical theater is the musical Jekyll and Hyde, which is not as good as Sweeney Todd. It's the kind of show that's only as good as its production, because it's all about the cast and presentation with that one. It determines how good it is. But he was able to do what is kind of imperative for someone to do playing the title role in Jekyll and Hyde, which is sort of alternate between pure, kind-hearted man and sadistic killer, like vocally, but still singing it, not just like not where one is singing, the other is just kind of growly talk singing. He was able to sing both parts,
and it worked really well.
Yeah.
I love the use of the dead body as a puppet, and even he's like, "Did I go too far?"
Yeah, that he just kind of has this like,
gone too far.
Just kind of has this.
Okay, dial it back a little.
We found the line.
He crossed into Bill Moseley territory.
Yeah. Bill Moseley. This cast is amazing, but Bill Moseley is this like insane, just psychopath.
I will shoot you in the face. Why does this taste like rap? Stab.
I can't hear you. I can't fucking hear you. He's just this like fucking psychopath. Although the real MVP of that movie is Paul Sorvino.
Oh my gosh.
From Goodfellas, who is a classically trained tenor. And a lot of people didn't know that going into this movie. And he has a gorgeous voice. I mean, and just
he really
sustaining some fantastic high notes.
Well, I couldn't even believe that. I remember even asking you, like, okay, who sang for him?
Yeah.
Because there's no way he's doing it.
Yeah. Because you don't watch Goodfellas and go, yeah, opera singer. You know, like
right? You just don't. But he was very, very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I almost want to say Bill Moseley stole the show, but Paul Sorvino was just like, this is my movie.
Bill Moseley stole all his scenes.
Yes.
Or at least made the most of all of his scenes. Paul Sorvino stole the fucking show. He
was a made man. Bill Moseley wasn't.
But it's got an amazing cast because Nathan Wallace, aka the Repo Man that we were mentioning before, who's sort of our male lead, is played by Anthony Head from Buffy. And then our leading lady is his daughter, played by Alexa Vega from Spy Kids.
Shocking.
And she's good.
I think she does well with what she has.
Yeah. It's not a perfect movie. There's definitely some there are times where the lyrics are a little clunky. There's some narratives, but it all comes together for a glorious pastiche, I think.
I think it's something that any fan of horror and gore
just
kick back and relax and laugh.
Yeah, it is
at the insanity that is this movie.
It is nasty.
You will forget that you're watching a musical.
Yeah,
because I know I did.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is very unlike most musicals.
Although that one cameo had me like,
oh yeah,
freaking out.
Yeah, there's a. I won't even spoil this. There's a cameo, like a split, not even split second, but just like for one song, doesn't say a word, but this amazing cameo.
Yes, I was almost jumping on my couch, and Will was, you're right in my ear, dude.
But some of the supporting cast is also, we've got Sarah Brightman, who musical theater people will know as the original Christine in Phantom of the Opera, but she is a classically trained soprano, and
her voice was amazing.
It's incredible. Then we've got Paris Hilton, and it kind of works.
I think it only works because it's basically she's kind of playing herself.
She's kind of playing a parody of herself.
Man, she looked good as a brunette.
She
though.
did.
Oh, damn!
But like it was like this feels like the right, like she's obviously not a versatile actress, but like
very.
It's like we found the one thing she can do and do pretty well.
I mean, this movie didn't have the House of Wax promotion of,
which is, hey, come see
Paris Hilton die. Who cares about the rest of the movie?
Yeah.
Just watch Paris Hilton die.
Yeah, as that's the only worthwhile thing in that movie.
Yeah.
But
I can't defend that one.
But then it's also got Ogre from the band Skinny Puppy doing this very over the top character. This
the brother that wears the faces.
Yeah, Pavi. And then the guy who wrote it is a guy named Terrence Zdunich.
And he's the narrator.
He plays the sort of the narrator character called the Grave Robber. And he's entertaining as hell. Who are we forgetting? I guess that's...
I think that's about
I
it.
think that's... I'm going to feel like such an asshole if... Yeah, double check real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of people who pop up in it that were that had little bit parts in some of the Saw movies. Because, it's the
same director.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same team. You've got the
hotel manager from Saw 4.
Yeah, the rapist.
Had a brief cameo.
Yeah, as did the woman who was she in the final chapter? Was she she was in, I'm sorry, I'm looking it up right now. Suzanne, who was Suzanne? Was that the woman at the beginning? On the buzzsaw?
I'd have to...
Okay. Well, whatever, but she's in it briefly. But yeah, it's got a bunch of well, people like that. Some of the Saw team is involved. Like David Hackle was the production designer. But it's a very cool, very interesting movie.
It is, and overall, it is just a good movie.
Yeah, and it is not going to be for everyone. It is a very specific type of, like, it is a very niche movie, and it was basically, it's exactly as you would expect. It was a bomb that got a cult following, and that's exactly the kind of movie you watch this movie and you're like, yeah, this was definitely a bomb that got a cult following. The music is just, it's very unique. It's very Nine Inch Nails. It's this kind of industrial rock vibe to it.
A little bit of grunge.
Yeah, there's some grunge elements. Well, there's, I mean,
that's the thing though.
There's a very punk influence.
I could have this
number.
soundtrack on loop.
Oh yeah.
And again, that's a big thing for me. Was this? I actually enjoyed the music.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, you've got Paul Sorvino just straight up singing opera.
Yeah.
Like, and you've got this punk number with said fantastic cameo, and it's like, it's a fascinating and very eclectic mix that all works.
I love Shiloh's first song about her genetics, and she's just, these genes are a bitch.
Yeah, which seeing Carmen Cortez swear was definitely odd. Young lady! As if she's not, like, our age.
Right.
But, it's such an impressive movie for being something so weird, and
it's a shame that it wasn't appreciated when it first came out.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where it's, because it's not for mainstream.
Yeah.
It's gonna be overlooked or panned very, very bad.
Some of the best movie musicals have done that. I mean, Rocky Horror was exactly that. Part of the reason I love stuff like that is it is so niche to combine so many different styles and elements like that.
I feel like if there's any kind of music that would work with horror, it would be that punk rock feel. I don't think you could necessarily do rap or hip hop and somehow make that mix with horror.
Yeah, it's either got to be very, like, dramatic classical, like Sweeney Todd, where it's heavy, unless you're doing a parody. If you're doing sincere horror, it's got to be either something dramatic like that, or it's got to be like a hard rock.
Or just get Paul Sorvino.
Yeah, just, well, that's what I mean, is like heavy dramatic, or and everyone sings well in it. Like, I mean, they don't give Paris Hilton much to sing, but
she works well with what she has.
Yeah, they use her wisely.
Yes, for any of the performers who have shortcomings, I felt their weaknesses were hid very well. In this
very
movie.
Very much so. Like, Bill Moseley can sing.
I can't fucking hear that.
He's just
yelling.
Who ordered pizza? Save me a slice. Just
him, like, screaming and freaking out and just breaking out into crying. Just great.
Randomly. It's so good. I just think it's a fascinating blend that, I feel like something like Repo is so crazy. And the fact that it's so niche, to me, is what makes it so special.
It's actually something that I wouldn't mind rewatching.
Yeah.
And I can't really say that about most musicals. I could go without watching Little Shop of Horrors.
Sure.
And I know that it has this huge following, but I just don't get it.
That's right.
I don't get it.
But
I mean, everything about Audrey 2 is awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Which,
everybody else.
That is one of the first dream roles I ever had, was to be the voice of Audrey 2 on stage.
Feed me.
Was to be the voice of Audrey 2 in Little Shop. That was one of the first bucket list roles I ever had. Still at the top.
Have you done that?
I have not. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
It's still at the top of the bucket list.
People who are, casting, get this guy.
I
He's worth
auditioned.
it.
I did audition once and didn't get it. But
They missed out.
I was told by a friend of mine with Broadway connections, yes, they missed. Feed me!
Where am I supposed to get it from?
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long. That's right, boy. You can do it. Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long. 'Cause if you feed me, Seymour, I can grow up big and strong.
Now, Bousman and Zdunich teamed up for two other horror musicals, The Devil's Carnival and Alleluia, The Devil's Carnival, which is the sequel.
That's the one with Dayton Callies, right?
Yes, Dayton Callies in both of those.
I know you told me about those,
Yeah,
and I've never had a chance to see them.
And Terrence Zdunich in those plays Lucifer.
Who plays Lucifer?
Terrence Zdunich,
Okay.
the writer and grave robber, and Paul Sorvino is God. But it depicts hell.
I can only picture him as a gangster.
I mean, he's in a white suit.
You want to get to heaven?
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta do a few things for me.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, here's 10 commandments I need you to follow. That may be the hardest I've gotten you to laugh on this show.
Caught me off guard. But no, it's fascinating because the first one, it depicts hell as a creepy circus, and all of the songs in it's not sung through all the way, but it's almost like it's done in sketches.
Okay.
Because you've got these new arrivals in hell, and all of them are basically going to be tested to be certain they belong there. All of them correspond with one of Aesop's fables. And so one of them is greedy. And so basically they test, is she, will she take the bait and be as greedy as she was? Will being scared by the threat of hell teach her a lesson? And it doesn't. So then a song is sung of the dog in the water, which is one of Aesop's fables, or a dog that had a mouthful of pennies. Who was so proud of them, looked down, saw her reflection, and tried to
I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah, because I played you this song.
This is the one that has always stood out to me anytime you've described it.
Because
to me.
the song is actually sung by Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch, and I think when this movie was made, Five Finger Death Punch didn't suck yet. He's but all of them are carnival type. So he's the hobo clown. So he's this, let me tell you a tale for a penny, one that you cannot hear anywhere else, not anywhere else. It's this wonderful, just jaunty, but the artist Emil Autumn is also in it as the painted doll, who is Dayton Callie played, I can't remember if he's called the gatekeeper or the bookkeeper, but he's but he's the one who guards the rule, the book of law, the 666 rules. And
I get it, 666.
Yeah. But you've also got you do have Alexa Vega and Bill Moseley in bit parts in it, and Sean Patrick Flannery is in it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in the sequel takes place primarily in heaven, and this is a movie that's gonna be. I mean, it steps on toes and proudly does so, because it's more, but it's, if anything, it's more critiquing organized religion than it is, because Zdunych is an atheist, and so heaven is depicted almost like it's this fascist regime. So, like, it's very much more critiquing, like, you know, hardcore early, like, Orthodox Catholicism and stuff like
Looking at you, far right Christians.
But it's very much more. I mean, you know, neither of us are terribly religious, but we both believe in God, and
Yes.
you know, we both.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, we both love Jesus. But we also love the word fuck.
Can we get that on a shirt?
I think it probably is one.
We love Jesus on the back, but we also love the
Word fuck. That one has even more, like, big names in it. Well, relatively big names, because Paul Sorvino has a bigger role in it, as opposed to appearing at the beginning and end in the first one. But in this one, Broadway royalty Adam Pascal is in it, and those who aren't familiar with Broadway, he was in the original cast of Rent. Those who aren't familiar with Broadway will know him as Theo, the leader of Dewey's band in School of Rock.
Damn. Okay.
And then you've also got Barry Bostwick, who, of course, you know, well, many people will know him as Brad in Rocky Horror Picture Show, but, you know, also has done a ton of other stuff. And then you've also got David Hasselhoff. No joke. And then, but also a guy named Ted Neely. And Ted Neely is a big deal because he played Jesus in the movie of Jesus Christ Superstar. And apparently Darren Lynn Bousman is a big fan of Jesus Christ Superstar, and there is a reference to that movie thrown in. A lyric is quoted in the dialogue, spoken to Ted Neely's character. It's oh, and Tech Nine is also in it.
I don't think I know who that
I
is.
think he's a rapper. But
If he isn't, I
Yeah.
definitely don't know.
right. But you've also got a lot of the people who were in the first one returning, like
Okay.
Zdunych, Callie. Vega did not return because she's very religious and didn't like the direction it was going, which I get. You know, I very much look at it as, you know, look, an atheist is making this, so there's not really any malice toward God because they don't believe in God. So they can't be mad, like, it's a weird...
You made me this way.
Exactly, yeah, it's like...
Who am I talking to?
Exactly, yeah. So you can't really be... This is my philosophy, just a bit of philosophy. This is the Blood Brothers podcast theology section. So to me, it's like he's clearly... What he's, you know, criticizing is religion, not God, because to him there isn't one. So who would, you know... Just it's a fascinating concept, and the music is good, is great in both cases. So check those out. Like I recommend them. Again, if you are okay with, you know, just totally fucked up, it's not nearly as...
And if you aren't easily, if you
Right.
are Christian,
Yeah.
if you are easily offended by things poking at how you would see poking at your religion,
Yeah.
this obviously isn't the watch for you.
Right. And I'm not going to say, you know, no, you're wrong for thinking that. I'm just, you know, I'm...
Yeah, there's obviously some thresholds that some people aren't comfortable with,
Everyone
and that's
has-
perfectly fine.
Everyone has their line.
At least now you're warned about it, so you
Yeah.
can't go into it and be, oh, this
Yeah.
is not what I expected
And the first
it to be.
and the first one does have a couple little jabs, but it's not an entire... The whole movie isn't an indictment. It's the first one really is just more, you know, ooh, it's spooky, we're in hell.
If Pinhead doesn't have a cameo, I'll be disappointed.
That would be great if they were able to get Doug Bradley for a cameo. That would have been amazing. They legally couldn't have had him be Pinhead, but it still would have been cool.
Just have him in there and just, How is it I always find myself here?
Not again. It could be worse. I could be in Wrong Turn 5.
I could be in Hell World. I think I'll take Hell World over Wrong Turn 5.
Yeah, because Hellworld is way more entertaining. Hellworld is at least unintentionally hilarious.
I like to party. Oh,
How's that for a wake-up call?
I just Pinhead dropping one-liners.
But no, as one who loves musicals, I find it just, I love the idea of combining the two, and I love seeing other people like that. I love seeing that other people appreciate that merging.
I would like to see more of it if I can. If I can manage to get through it.
Sure.
'Cause it's an interesting take
Yeah.
in the world of horror. Like, I could almost see something like American Psycho being done as a musical.
I think they made one.
Damn. Well, shit. Here I am spouting ideas that already
I don't know.
exist.
I don't know if it did well, but they made a musical of Carrie. That's supposed to be great. I haven't seen it.
And see, and that's the thing, is that I believe that there is an audience
Yeah.
out there that wants this.
Yeah. It's just not you in most
yeah,
cases.
it's just not. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
me.
You know, there's a what was I saying? Well, there's an Evil Dead the musical, which is, again, it's very much a horror comedy, and it's it's pure camp, much like something like Rocky Horror, but it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of like spraying the audience with blood, like there's a splash zone, like at SeaWorld, and
I've never seen it performed. I would need to go.
it was a blast.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. But I had 3 friends in the production I saw, and it was 4 actually. There was one that I didn't know was in it, but it was just so much fun.
I know I had my buddy Jarvis.
I was to say
in
Jarvis did it
production of
a couple
once.
years ago. But it's yeah, because there's a group here that does it at like every Halloween. But it's again, so many people have a narrow idea of what a musical is because all they know is like old Rodgers and Hammerstein or
The sound of music.
Exactly. Right. All they know is like that or Disney or something like that.
See, I feel like when I do that,
Yeah.
singing, it's more like when you order Will's singing voice off of Wish.com. Right?
That didn't sound bad though. That didn't sound too bad.
Oh, that's because I wasn't. I kept alone. I wasn't trying. Let me put real effort in. You'll see how bad it is.
Well, and this is not an attempt at humble brag. This is just sort of me, like, this past last summer I played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and as one who loves horror and loves monsters, I really tried to incorporate some of that into it because, I hadn't seen a ton of people play him, as other than just sort of the generic, bellowing, animal. I wanted to do a more warped, sort of almost more, not demonic, but
Okay.
I wanted to take. I thrive on unconventional acting choices, and I wanted to.
You don't say.
Yeah, exactly. But like I worked on like walking like the way you see big cats walk.
Okay.
And
Like a giraffe.
yeah. It's a giraffe.
The look on your face.
But and then like I moved my head like a wolf, or like a dog would. But I
For the voice, I did this.
because normally I see people,
And they do it like this.
like they do Christian Bale's Batman.
That's instantly
And-
what I thought.
And but
I want to make it sound a little bit more like it was a human trying to speak through. You've come to stare at the beast, haven't you?
and my voice wasn't as tired as it is now when I did the role, but I really wanted to use some of my love of horror and sort of add that to it, even where it wasn't a horror musical. And I might cut all of this, but I just something interesting.
I do think it's an interesting take, and again, I do think there is an audience out
Yeah.
there that craves this style of
Yeah.
horror,
And
and
I
for
am,
it
and
to,
you're not.
and for it to
Yeah.
be more presented mainstream.
Yeah.
Because horror is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of cinema. No one
Yeah.
wants to really talk about it.
Yeah.
No one wants to acknowledge it, or no one wants to give it its proper due.
Right.
And I think for a lot of fans, it's like a long time coming that
Yeah.
horror is finally like getting some recognition, especially today. And I feel as though with horror heading in the right direction,
Yeah.
there is a possibility of musicals that
Yeah.
could possibly happen because it's finally getting
Yeah.
some traction. I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And
I will say this: it's definitely different from this, the same old shtick.
yeah. And the one thing that is in a lot of times in Disney movies, the villain song is often like a straight up horror musical, or it's like a number from a horror musical. I think the best.
I love Hellfire.
I do too. That from Hunchback of Notre Dame, that song is just haunting. And
As a kid, I didn't
Yeah.
get it.
Beata Maria,
it's just, I mean, again, see what I mean? Where it's like emotion. There's emotion you can convey through song that you can't.
Yes.
Or I think Friends on the Other Side from The Princess and the Frog. Did you ever see that one?
I have not.
Well, Keith David is the character.
Okay.
But he's this voodoo master, and he has a song called "Friends on the Other Side," and he's talking about basically the spirits he sort of has at his beck and call.
Oh.
And but it's this it's kind of jazzy, but gets more and more sinister as it goes.
Okay.
But it's visually speaking, I mean, you've got it looks very, very spooky, and then the reprise at the end for his death is downright terrifying.
And that's the thing about most Disney villains is if they're not just falling,
Yeah.
their deaths are horrible.
Yeah. I mean,
Like I can't remember the character's name, but Rapunzel or Tangled.
oh yeah, Mother Gothel.
Yeah.
She's like rapidly aging as she falls. Like
that was
that was
disturbing.
haunting. And then I mean, obviously you get someone like Clayton, where you just see the the shadow of his hanged body.
horror is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
If you look for it, it's there.
Yeah. Scar, you see the shadow of the hyenas tearing him apart.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's musical numbers can be scary, and the idea of doing entire shows of that can really work if done well. If it's done like Sweeney Todd, or or if you're going to go a campy route with Repo.
No, I'm even thinking while we were watching Firestarter, and when she sets certain people on fire, I can almost hear like a creepy version of "We didn't start the fire."
See, that needs to be like the next catchy pop song that gets a creepy version for a trailer for a like the way Candyman did "Say My Name." But yeah, I this is a short episode, but it's something that I thought would be interesting to talk about.
And hey, I definitely appreciate you showing me this side of horror.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not a musical guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, as much as Sweeney Todd and Little Shop were hard to get through, Repo was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
So if this episode was worth it just for that movie
Just to see
alone,
Repo?
for me anyway.
Yeah.
So I think
that pretty much does it.
well, that means I get to pick the topic for next time.
It does indeed.
I am excited. I'm so excited because
And you have not told me beforehand.
no, I have not. And because we have ventured into your world,
Okay.
I think it's time we venture into mine.
I think I know where you're going.
We are going to be discussing horror in the world of professional wrestling.
That's where I thought you were going with this.
Professional wrestling
is.
fan, and if you look closely, there is a lot of horror
There is.
about pro wrestling, and I'm
Absolutely.
so excited. I cannot wait
Absolutely.
to see all the things you
CM
get to
Punk
dig
starring
up.
a horror movie.
Yeah, he
Um,
did. Yes, he did.
But
It's gonna be a very fun topic.
yeah,
that
yeah.
is for sure.
This fascinates me.
So until that time,
I'm Will Lastly,
and I'm Alex Maynard.
and until next time, be right back.